Okay, class, today these are your finals, and it's going to be your 180 multi number one, so make sure you access your speed building beforehand. So you have proper names. You have Julie R. Mesa, Ms. Ramirez Mayfield, Picacho Jessica, and so it starts in the middle with question by Mr. Camacho, always his witness, unless you have Mr. Arrieta speaking to the witness or Mr. Camacho. I am Mr. Camacho.
The witness, Mr. Arrieta.
Mr. Camacho.
The witness, Mr. Arrieta.
Okay, and this is going to be test number one for 5 minutes, and it does start with Mr. Camacho asking the witness questions, unless Mr. Arrieta speaks. Final exam, you all. Warm up beforehand. Did the man record your statement?
Yes, sir, he did.
He had a little micro cassette and the tape?
Yes.
And he took your statement of the entire incident at that time, is that correct?
Let me go ahead and interject. I believe it's an investigator that we sent out, and I would say that that is protected by work product privilege, attorney-client privilege. I may provide you with a transcribed copy, or actually, I don't think there's been a transcribed copy of the interview. I may consider providing you a copy of the tape. I don't know if it exists. I've never seen it. What I got was a summary of the discussion.
Okay, notwithstanding your objection, and I understand your objection, I'm still going to inquire a little bit.
Sure.
Was anybody else present at the time you gave this statement to the insurance agent?
My mother.
What is your mother's name?
Julie R. Mesa.
She lives with you?
Yes.
You live with your mother?
Yes, sir.
Have you given any other statements to anyone else regarding this accident?
No, sir, I haven't.
Other than to the police officer?
No, sir.
Did you give a statement to the police officer?
Yes, I did.
I thought I understood you to say, I may be wrong. He simply took your name.
I believe she said that she had given him a statement.
I did mention the statement earlier.
Okay, please tell us what you said.
He took my name and he asked me a little bit about what happened. I think it was mainly to find out if I was really there or not, since I had gone and came back.
What did you tell him then?
The same thing that I have said here.
Would you have known if he was a motorcycle officer?
I'm not sure.
All right, how many officers spoke to you?
One.
Did you know his name, or did he give you his name?
He gave me his name, but I don't remember his name.
Now, you indicated that you were right behind. You were following.
Yes, sir.
How many feet approximately were you behind Ms. Ramirez? That was the driver of the automobile.
I'd say about 5-6 feet.
Was it a big car or a smaller car or what?
It was bigger than my car.
Did it obstruct your view in any way?
My view of the road?
Of the little girl. Could you see the little girl completely?
At the curb?
Yes.
Yes, sir, I could.
You said you had tinted windows. Did that obscure your view in any way?
A little bit.
What do you mean by a little bit?
In the mornings, it's not very light outside at that time. So with my tinted windows, it's hard to see when it's not really bright because they're really dark.
There were a lot of people going to school at Mayfield at that time. Isn't that correct?
No, actually, I go to school early. I get there early. School doesn't really start until 8:27, but I usually end up leaving about 7:45 from my house because I have this fear of being late everywhere.
Is there an elementary school nearby?
There's one on Picacho, but that's a couple blocks away.
In addition to high school students that are going to and from Mayfield, do you see a lot of children that are younger than high school age on that street at that time of day?
Not usually.
What attracted you to Jessica that you paid attention to her?
She was making hand gestures with a girl across the street. I knew she wasn't paying attention. I always check the sides of the street because I'm always afraid I'm going to end up hitting somebody. So I always check the sides of the street.
But the tinted windows did obscure your view somewhat, didn't they?
A little bit. My front window isn't completely tinted.
Did you actually see Ms. Ramirez collide with the little girl?
Pardon me?
Objection. That mischaracterizes her prior testimony. I think she said she might have walked into it.
I'll be glad to rephrase the question. Did you actually see the accident clearly?
I saw the little girl flip in the air.
So if I understood your testimony, then Ms. Ramirez's car obscured your view of the accident completely, didn't it?
Objection. That mischaracterizes prior testimony.
You can answer the question. As I said before, don't worry about the lawyers and objections.
Well, I just didn't want to overlap our conversations.
If you were watching the little girl, you weren't watching Ms. Ramirez, were you?
They were pretty much close together.
But you directed your attention to the little girl, did you not?
Both. My eyes were going back and forth each time.
Did you hear the body of the little girl hit the car?
I heard something hit the car. I'm not sure if it was her binder or if it was actually her.
That's fine. What happened to the little girl when you heard the impact, whatever you heard?
Her binder went flying to the opposite side of the car. She flipped in the air and fell by the side.
How close to the curb?
I'd say about 5 or 6 feet.
She was 5 or 6 feet from the curb, or she... And we'll get ready for your 180 multi, final number 2. Okay, you also, we have on your 180 multi number 2 final, proper names. You have Mr. Klickner, Chris Alou, Amber Dennis, Mr. Lanter, Robert E. Klickner, Water Street, apartment 4107, Webster, NASA, Clear Lake, Space Station, El Camino Real, Bay Area, Dawn, Ms. Dennis, Oriental Gourmet, El Paso or El Camino Boulevard, El Camino, Bay Area Boulevard, Mr. Buck, Blockbuster, and Papa John's. And so you have colloquy between the lawyers and then examination by Mr. Solo and always his witness, okay? I am Mr. Soyolu.
The witness?
Mr. Lanter.
Mr. Soyolu.
The witness?
Mr. Lanter.
And remember, it starts in colloquy between the attorneys and then examination by myself when I ask the witness questions. 180 number 2 multi for 5 minutes. Starts with myself in colloquy. We are on the record. Today's date is March 6, 2013. The time is 3:44 p.m. Will the court reporter please swear in the witness?
Stipulations?
No.
Signature?
Yes. Hi, Mr. Klickner. My name is Crystal Liu. I represent Amber Dennis, who is the plaintiff in this case.
Uh-huh.
You understand that you are here to give testimony about an accident that happened in April of 2011.
Yes.
Okay, this is Mr. Lanter. He is the defense attorney. Did you have an opportunity to review any documents before coming here today?
No.
Could you, for the record, state your full legal name for me?
Robert E. Klickner.
Where do you live, Mr. Klickner?
200 Water Street, apartment 4107.
What town is that in?
Webster,
Webster? Where do you work?
NASA.
NASA. What do you do for NASA?
Train astronauts.
Really? That's impressive. How long have you lived in this area?
Well, let's see. I have been in the Webster area for 3 years, and let's see, Clear Lake since 71.
So the curiosity is just getting to me. What do you train the astronauts to do?
Well, I used to be a diver at the swimming pool. We used to train everything.
Okay.
Now I train everything that's in the space station.
All right, cool. Are you pretty familiar with Clear Lakes area and the Webster area?
Yeah, pretty much.
Let's just get right to it. Let's talk a little bit about the accident. Whose car were you in the day of the accident?
My sister's car,
Can you tell me where you were seated in that car?
passenger seat,
Okay, front or rear passenger seat?
front.
Front, okay. What time of day did the accident happen, if you recall?
It was probably about 8:30, 9 o'clock at night.
Okay, and what street were you guys traveling down before the accident?
El Camino Real,
What intersection?
Bay Area,
Where were you guys headed?
probably to drop me off at my house.
Okay, was there anyone in the vehicle with you?
Yes, her name is Dawn,
And how do you know her?
my sister's friend.
Describe for me when you first noticed Ms. Dennis's car.
When we pulled up to the stoplight, she was in front of us.
Do you remember what color her vehicle was?
I believe it was red or maroon.
Do you remember what type of car it was?
No.
Describe for me from the time you noticed her vehicle to the time of the collision, what you observed.
Well, we were in my sister's car. We were talking. We just left Oriental Gourmet and the light turned green. She pulled out and got and she got hit on the side or the front of the rear. I can't remember exactly. It's been so long, but it was on the side by either a white or a white two-toned truck.
Okay. At the time of the collision, did you guys have a green light?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know what the speed limit is on El Camino Boulevard?
Huh?
The speed limit on El Camino, do you know what that is?
No.
How about Bay Area Boulevard? Do you know what the speed limit is there?
Probably 35, 40.
Okay. When the collision happened, did you hear anybody hitting their brakes?
No.
Did the white truck ever slow down?
No.
Okay.
Not as far as I know.
Did you notice whether or not Ms. Dennis was on the cell phone or not?
I couldn't see. It was dark.
Did you notice whether or not the driver of the pickup truck was on the cell phone?
No.
Did you talk to anyone after the accident?
Yes.
Who did you speak with?
Both people.
Ms. Dennis and Mr. Buck.
Uh-huh.
Did you have a chance to talk to the investigating officer at the scene?
Yes, I did. He took reports.
Okay. Did you talk to anyone else?
No.
Okay.
Oh, my sister and Dawn, yeah.
Okay. Do you have any reason to believe that Ms. Dennis ran a red light?
No.
Do you have any reason to believe that she did anything to cause this accident?
No.
If you had to place responsibility on this accident, who would you place that responsibility with?
Objection, form.
Huh?
Never mind, go ahead.
The guy in the pickup.
Who is responsible for this accident in your opinion?
Objection, form.
The gentleman in the pickup. The other vehicle.
Did the vehicle come to an immediate stop after the crash?
They slid a little bit, but pretty much stopped.
Okay.
There wasn't too much out away from the intersection.
How far do you think they slid?
Let's see, probably not even 25 feet
Okay.
or less, because we parked in the used to be Blockbuster parking lot. It's Papa John's right there. We walked through the bushes. The cars were right there.
How was the light, the daylight, during that time of the day?
It was nighttime.
It was nighttime. Was it visibility still pretty good without the street lights?
Yeah, visibility was good.
Was it raining?
No,
Did you get a chance to look at the property damage of both those vehicles?
I glanced at it, but I don't remember.
Okay, and we will get ready for your 160s. Be then your 160 number 1 multi-boys. You have Marcy Kinderman, Pennsylvania Stock Exchange, Miss Kinderman, Army, Mr. Barker, Philadelphia Savings and Loan. And so it starts at the very beginning with direct examination by Mr. Smith. Always Mr. Smith's witness unless you have the court speaking to the witness or Mr. Smith. I am Mr. Smith.
The witness?
The court.
Mr. Smith.
The witness?
The court.
And this is going to be 160 multi number 1 final for 5 minutes. Starts with Mr. Smith at the very beginning asking the witness questions. Did the bank teller, Marcy Kinderman, ever ask you to leave the premises?
No.
The policeman came inside the bank, and then what happened?
Well, about another couple of minutes passed, and then 2 foot patrol men were walking up the street, and they passed. As they were passing the bank door, they looked in the bank, and they waved, and then they came in the bank.
Who waved? The police outside or the policeman inside?
The 2 policemen that were walking up the street waved.
Did you see anyone inside waving back?
No, I was up at the counter, so that makes me about 50 or so feet to the west of them.
What next?
I waited a couple of minutes or so, and then I walked down past the counter to see, I wanted to see what was going on. Then I stationed myself between the bank door and the door of the teller's door. There's a little bit of separation there. There's distance of maybe about 15 or 20 feet. 15 feet, I would say.
Is that bank premises or Pennsylvania Stock Exchange premises? Neither or both?
It's actually one whole building. It's all one building.
At this time with your right hand, did you push some leaflets off the counter by accident?
I would say no. I just flicked them with my finger on purpose.
Did you push them with your finger? Can you describe to me how you did that?
As far as I know, I made a motion with my fingers, flicking them, here like this.
May the record indicate that the witness has indicated that he flicked them with the back sides of his fingertips. Is that correct?
Yes, I will accept that. That is accepted.
You made this flicking motion in the direction of Miss Kinderman.
Across the counter.
To the best of your recollection, did your hand extend further towards her direction when you made the gesture? To the best of your recollection, did any of these leaflets come in contact with her person?
Well, they fluttered. I believe that I saw some go as far as her person.
3 or 4 feet across the counter, is that correct?
Yes,
Was Miss Kinderman seated or standing at the time?
standing.
What was the level of her head in relationship to the top of the partition?
She's fairly tall woman. I would say that her head probably was over a foot above the top of the partition.
You indicated she was tall. Can you give me any estimate as to her height, please?
I would say she was 5'7" or more.
Are you the same height and weight you were in 1992?
I may have been about 10 pounds heavier, but that's just approximate.
You appear to be rather well muscled. Do you go in for athletic sports of any kind? Have you ever boxed?
I hike, skin dive. I participated in boxing in the Army.
I believe you indicated that after you had pushed, or however you wish to describe it, the leaflets in her direction, you handed her the note ordering her to give you the money in her drawer. She made a motion with her arm and the two of you remained there for approximately 30 seconds before someone else came over. Is that correct?
Yes.
During this 1 minute, did you have any conversation with Miss Kinderman?
No.
The two of you just stood motionless?
Yes.
You made no conversation with her at all?
Not that I recall.
Did you make any other physical gestures towards her of any nature?
Not that I recall.
At that time, did it appear to you that she was going to continue with any transactions involving your note?
Well, I really can't say what it appeared like she was going to do. I was waiting to see what she was going to do.
Was there any reason why during that 30 seconds that you could not have gone to another window and selected another teller?
Any reason at all? There were no restrictions. She was scared and so was I.
And then at this time, after the 30 seconds or so had elapsed, the bank manager, Mr. Barker, came over. Is that correct?
Yes.
And the proceedings transpired as you have explained to us earlier.
Yes.
You indicated that approximately 2 or 3 days after this incident took place, that would be about May 4 or May 5, you were arrested at the main branch of Philadelphia Savings and Loan. Is that right?
Yes.
After this arrest, did you arrange to have your attorney contact the bank and ask them to drop the charges?
Yes. I instructed my attorney to do this.
To indicate to the
And we'll get ready for your second 160 multi. Second 160 multi, let me give you words that come out. Final exam, Stephen, Sheila, Stephen and Sheila Morphle, El Paso, Fort Bliss, Ferguson, Mark, Germany, Minnesota, Quebec, Lakeland, Minnesota, Mr. Ferguson, Asti, Tequila, Fatso, Steve Morphle, Porters, Oklahoma, Fort Sill, Oklahoma, and Thumper. And so it starts in the middle with question by Miss Herman. Always Miss Herman's witness unless you have Mr. Hughes speaking to the witness or myself. I'm Miss Herman.
The witness?
Mr. Hughes.
Miss Herman.
The witness?
Mr. Hughes.
And it does start with Miss Herman asking the witness questions, okay? Unless you have Mr. Hughes speaking to either one of us. 160, number 2 final, 5 minutes, you all. And when did he start drinking?
That evening?
After you said he stopped during the month of November. When did he have his next drink? Sometime in December?
December, the night that everything happened.
Do you remember what time of the day he started drinking?
At 7 o'clock.
In the evening?
Yes, ma'am.
Who was he with?
Stephen and Sheila Morphle, and then the 2 guys that he knew from El Paso. From Fort Bliss.
What were their names?
Ferguson and Mark.
Ferguson and who?
And Mark, I believe.
Mark is the first name?
Ferguson is the last name of one guy, and Mark is the
First name.
first name of the other guy.
Do Steve and Sheila Morphle still live in El Paso?
No.
Where do they live?
The last I heard, she lived in, do you want her address?
Do you have it?
I know that they were due to be stationed over to Germany. She was going to join him, Minnesota.
Do you want to read that?
Yeah, I was just going to have her read it for the record.
2240 Quebec, Quebec, EC, Lakeland, Minnesota, 55043.
Did you get all of that?
How about Mr. Ferguson? Do you know where he is?
I have no idea.
How about Mark?
I have no idea.
Had you met Ferguson or Mark before that evening?
No.
Has Stephen ever mentioned them to you?
He had mentioned Ferguson to me before.
Was Ferguson a friend of his?
Through work, he knew Ferguson. That's where he met Ferguson.
How about Mark? Had he ever talked to you about Mark?
No, ma'am.
I assume all of these people you were just talking about were all drinking that evening.
Yes.
Stephen and Sheila.
Sheila brought some Asti wine for her and they were drinking tequila shots and beer.
Okay.
The guys were.
How much wine do you think Sheila had to drink?
I know I had about half a glass. I don't know how many Sheila had.
Did you have anything else to drink besides that half a glass of wine?
No. Liquor-wise?
Liquor?
No.
Was anyone taking any drugs that evening?
No.
So all these people were drinking at your apartment that evening.
Yes, ma'am.
What were y'all doing?
Sheila and I were playing with our cats. She brought her cat over, and the guys were just talking about work.
What is your cat's name?
Fatso.
Is he fat?
Yes.
Do you still have him?
Yes.
How long did you and Sheila play with your cats?
Until about 10 o'clock.
And what happened at 10 o'clock?
Steve and Sheila left. The guys were making fun of Steve Morphle because he was wimping out, but he still left. He and Sheila left.
They were making fun of him for what?
Wimping out because they were all drinking and he wanted to go home and sleep.
What were they saying?
Oh, don't be a wimp, man. Stay, let's party.
Was your husband one of the people that was saying that?
Uh-huh.
Say yes or no.
Yes.
What happened after Steve and Sheila left?
The guys were playing quarters and I called my sister and was talking to my sister.
Where does your sister live?
She lives in Oklahoma, Fort Sill, Oklahoma.
What do you mean by playing quarters?
It's when you shoot the quarter up into the beer and you give it to someone else to drink.
Okay. And so the guys were playing this game, quarters?
Yes.
How much do you think they had to drink?
They had already finished that bottle of tequila and they had a cooler full of beer. I don't know how much was in there. It was pretty much gone.
What did you do after Steve and Sheila left?
I cleaned up and then that's when I called my sister.
How long did you talk to your sister that evening?
I talked to her twice. That time I talked to her for about 20 or 30 minutes.
What did you all talk about?
We talked about the things that had happened between how Stephen was being, that he was already drunk, what we made for dinner, about Sheila's cat.
What was Sheila's cat's name?
Thumper?
Thumper?
Yes, ma'am.
Did her cat and your cat get along, or did they fight?
Thumper, Fatso was used to fat cats, but Thumper wasn't, so she was being standoffish. But they didn't actually get into a fight or anything.
Do you remember what you had for dinner that night?
Chili.
Were you and Stephen talking to each other at all after Stephen and Sheila Morphle left?
He got upset with.
Okay, you all. So that concludes your finals. Good luck. Type them up. See how you did. Very fair tests. And don't forget to register early for your classes, okay? Have a great day.